Good morning, and first of all, I'd like to give my thanks to Professor Timmerman for inviting me to this fantastic conference. And I'm a historian studying history of science and Anthropocene from the historical perspective. And this is a new experience here. I mean, I'm really amazed by the amount of your hard work collecting data from the field based on the field studies, and then analyzing that in the wet lab, and the modeling and the international cooperations, and all together. I mean, this is the scale itself is a huge, not only the time scale that you are dealing with, but the project scale it's very impressive. And so compared to what you are doing, study of the Anthropocene it looks like too short. And then also as a historian, I have never studied, I mean, not even reading a book on prehistoric period. Usually a historic period is like 5,000 years old and at most. And so it's beyond my imagination in the first place. And the human evolution, I know it's a very important issue from my textbook understanding, but I've never studied that. So to fit my topic to the conference, how I can talk, and I think there is in the 20th century and then the Anthropocene period, which is a controversial term, I can say something about climate and human activities, and then related the changes in the concept of culture, history, and heritage, and so on. And then that's going to be the main topic of my talk. And on your left side, there is a poster, the image of the poster of the documentary called Anthropocene, the Human Epoch. It's an award-winning documentary made in 2018. And the mountain is an Italian mountain. You can see whole mountain is chopped and piece by piece, and the product is marble. So package it and sent around the world. So on the one hand, you can see how the earth is changing by human activities, but on the local side, but that's only one facet of the Anthropocene. And then underlying of this change is the global network of selling the marble to other corners of the world, the capitalistic network. So the human actions are linked in this era, and the Anthropocene is really about. And then also the second point that I think the documentary producer is trying to convey is that Anthropocene is more than global warming, more than climate change. It's a human activities causing a number of changes on the earth and the system, and then which includes a climate. So probably the people here are very familiar with how Anthropocene concept emerged, and then what's the current state. So this is to give my presentation, I just give you a snapshot of the Anthropocene concept. And the idea that humans are geological agents can be traced back to 19th century. or even further, 17th century or further down. Specifically, the humans are changing the earth, the idea. But it is formulated very forcefully by Paul Crutzen in 2000 with the concept of Anthropocene, and then within the community of Earth System Science. But at the same time, probably many of you are not familiar with this book, Something New Under the Sun. It's written by environmental historian. He's not just a usual environmental historian. He's a global environmental historian. And then there is a phrase, nothing new under the sun. That's a biblical phrase. But he twisted that and saying that there is something new under the sun which took place in the 20th century. It's totally different. And that the same message, Paul Crutzen says that we are living no longer in the Holocene, which is about 11,000 years ago, the past, and very stable. But it's a totally different epoch that we are living in. So it took place at the same time, and they somehow got to know with each other and came up with an idea of great acceleration. And then the data coming from Earth System Science, all the trends, Earth System trends, the changes, and then also human activities represented by socio-economic trends. And the term was proposed by John McNeill. So great acceleration is the key term in understanding the Anthropocene. And around that time, up until that time, the geological societies, which has the authority to decide whether Anthropocene can be an official one or not, was like didn't like it in the first place, and then also ignore some of the people coming from different disciplines talking about the new geological epoch, but they couldn't ignore anymore, and then they set up an Anthropocene working group in 2009, and the concept spread, crossing many disciplinary boundaries like a wildfire, fire. And one institution that took it is a cultural institution in Berlin, Germany, and Haus der Kulturen der Welt, HKW. And it's a cultural institution, but it's not an ordinary cultural institution, and inviting not only the artists or cultural studies people, but the humanities and social sciences, even scientists. Even they supported the activities of scientists within the Anthropocene Working Group. And they have a 10-year project called Anthropocene Curriculum. And that year, 2012, the under UNEP environmental program, Rio Earth Summit was held in Brazil. And then there is a documentary called "Welcome to the Anthropocene" was shown. So Anthropocene was on the scene, and at there the Rio Earth Summit, the concept of sustainable development was officially kind of adopted and then formulated. And then 3 years later, in 2015, it became a SDG, as we all know. So somehow Anthropocene SDG has some link there. Now there are other some institutional bases were built other than HKW, and KAIST, Center for Anthropocene Studies, was established 2018, and Max Planck and then Swedish, KTH, Royal Institute of Technology, has a Anthropocene History Center, and there are many other centers and individuals working on the Anthropocene. And what's happening is that Anthropocene Working Group had an insight voting whether the idea, the concept is reasonable enough to pursue the real evidence. They voted, and then about 90% of them said, voted in favor. So they proceeded, and then collecting the data, and then evidence, and presented last year, and then this year it was rejected by the geological community. However, this is a joint statement by International Union of Geological Sciences and International Commission on Stratigraphy. And so despite the rejection of the Anthropocene as the former geological time unit, the Anthropocene as a concept will continue to be widely used, not only by earth and environmental scientists, but also by social scientists, politicians, and economists, as well as by the public at large. As such, it will remain an invaluable descriptor in human-environment interactions. So, in other words, the Geological Society acknowledged the value of the Anthropocene, but still not ready to accept it as an official one. There is a lot of controversies. I heard so many things from the Anthropocene Working Group. I might be biased, but to me, from the historical point of view, it's a matter of generations. I mean, one generation used to have disciplinary protocol and the standard and many other things. It's very difficult to go beyond, but the next generation is open to many other new ideas, new approaches, and so maybe in 10 years, 20 years, who knows? Right. So this is the situation of the Anthropocene from the geologist's point of view. Now, the Anthropocene Working Group is kind of wrote a rebuttal in Nature 2000, in the summer, and so how can we use the concept without too much trouble? And then they fleshed out at least 3 main points. One is, it's not a matter of a new term, Anthropocene, but the whole thrust of doing this is the end of Holocene, end of stability, right? It's very, very difficult to go back. So irreversibility is the one thing they wanted to say. And the second point is the whole idea of the Anthropocene is about habitability, how humans can survive, not sustainability, like management of the resources to the next generation. And so it's a drastic changes of our attitude towards the current situations. And the point is a mid-20th century. And then with that, we can safely use whether it is officially recognized by geologists or not, we can have some common ground. That's their point. So, so basically, the geologists and then also some other people who opposed Anthropocene as an epoch tend to regard it as an event, anthropogenic event. There are many anthropogenic events in history. It's one of them. and so that instead of a capital A, they tend to use lowercase a, Anthropocene, and with that they acknowledge reversibility and then keep on using sustainable development idea, and then not necessary to the mid 20th century. So the debate still going on, and both sides come up with a number of scientific data. It's amazing to see that. But anyway, I'm not going to go in detail to that. But to me, their battleground, very important battleground, will be the Great Acceleration Graph, how to interpret the Great Acceleration. And it's about 10-year-old, 9-year-old Great Acceleration Graph. It's the first edition was 2007. It's a revised one, updated one, and show around 1950 all trends go up. Whether that is carbon dioxide and methane concentrations, or atmospheric temperature, or whether the population or GDP or energy use. And so it goes up. And then we need a better understanding of the correlation between the two. It's not a causal relations, but happen at the same time. And then some graphs are topped and then decelerate. And then what's the meaning of this? And then so that is something that my center is very much interested in collaboration with Max Planck and many other places. And so we are working on it. But today's talk is not about this. What does the Anthropocene mean to the study of climate and human evolution, or vice versa? And that's the kind of a question that I have in mind since I was asked to give a talk. And then, So what I can say, as I said, 70 years, at most 100 years is too short to talk about the human evolution. It's impossible. But the human activities is something that I can say with confidence. So the climate. Here I listened to the presentation saying that the climate as a driver of human evolution, and then with a good set of evidence. And we tend to forget that in the Holocene. I mean, there are some climate changes, but is it really a factor? Because there is not like a very extreme weather to allow some species to go extinct. So then the question is how we can incorporate humans as a driver of climate change. That's Anthropocene situations, not the climate change as a driver of human evolution, but the humans are the driver of the climate change. And it's the reversed role, but with that, it impacts humans. So it's a very dynamic situations that we are encountering since the middle of the 20th century, and that's what we have. So there is something, I think, hopefully, with your very broad time scale studies, and then focusing on the 20th century, maybe you can come up with a great idea to analyze this with multiple proxies, and then some quantifiable things, and then analyzing it is going to be wonderful. But the Anthropocene is really changing our meaning of history. Historicity, meaning is historicity. and it almost upside down. And history tends to be go like a geological history and a human history. Earth history, human history separate. Now it merged. In other words, human history cannot be studied properly without talking about climate, without talking about changes that took place on the earth. So it's merged. And we began to talk about extinction. Extinction means that humans no longer there, meaning asking then what's the meaning of history without humans? And it's a fundamental questions, and then historians are grappling with this possible scenario, and then it stimulates a number of interesting discussions and questions. And then culture. I found many people talking about population migration or population growth or decline and breeding, and then looks like you are treating humans like a cows and other, and which is fine, but the culture is fundamentally is about values, right? And then we have to talk about inequalities and justice and many others, and how we can talk about it in the Anthropocene is the question. And heritage, then it's related to culture. What is heritage without humans? And plus, whose heritage? It's a very complicated issue, and then study of heritage is called heritage studies, and the people there changing the concept of heritage quite a lot, and then I'm going to show you a little bit today. So, historicity. This is a documentary made by IBS, Educational Broadcasting System in Korea, premiered in 2019. I was involved in the production of this at the kind of a beginning stage, the PD came to visit my center, and then talking about who is the person to interview, and then I was involved in a minimal way, but it's a very good. It's also award-winning documentary, and the setting for the story for the documentary is that let's assume that the sixth great extinction took place. No humans, and aliens are visiting Korea to study what's the reason, what are the fossils evidence, where they could find. They could find it in waste. This is actually waste mountain in Korea. They look it very fuzzy, like a sci-fi, but it's the town is called Uiseong, and then they took care of it after this film, and it's a very controversial one. And then what they found is chicken bones and then plastics, and then the humans produce them a lot, and then it's sort of a representative fossils for the Anthropocene. So the whole idea is seeing the present, not from the past, but also from the future, and also seeing the present for the future. Very reflexive practice. And again, what is heritage in post-humanities, the world without humans? And then it makes us reprioritize our values, like going up and up and up, like a progress and development. Rather, we have to find other values. So, and then what about culture? And then this is book by Amitav Ghosh, originally from India, but he got a PhD in cultural anthropology from University of Cambridge, but he became a writer, the novelist. But he wondered why literature, novels, don't really talk about climate change. They always talk about humans, right? Society. There are some description of the nature as a background. Why the nature is always a background rather than having real agency, just like you did presentations in this conference. Climate, and then people are just changing. But it's all missing in the very human-centric the novels. And then I read his, and he didn't go as extreme as human extinction, but say, when readers and museum goers turn to the art and literature of our time, will they not look first and most urgently for traces and portents of the altered world of their inheritance? And when they fail to find them, so they first go to the literature, and when they fail to find them, what should they do other than to conclude that ours was a time when most forms of art and literature were drawn into the modes of concealment, right? Concealing the problems, and quite possibly then this era will come to be known as the time of great derangement. And quite powerfully, he says that Anthropocene presents a challenge not only to the arts and humanities, but also to our common sense understandings, and beyond that, to the contemporary culture in general. So with that, he says that climate crisis is also a crisis of culture, and thus of the imagination. The crisis of our imaginations. So the problems comes from our mind, and then it affects the earth, and then earth hits back, right? And then humanities haven't really properly deal with these situations, and that's what he wanted to say. So it's not just the policy changes that matters. That matters is our way of seeing the situations. What it means to be human, what is culture, what it means to how to deal with the earth. So I'm gonna show you 3 different modes of responding to this challenge, and one is, well, okay, climate change, we can do the job of preserving physical and the natural heritage. And one very interesting project, I don't know, some of you may be familiar with this, the Frozen Ark project. You know the Noah's Ark in the Bible, where many pairs of animals, male and female, were brought in to save the species, right? Just like that, biobank have DNA of endangered species, and they were frozen and kept, and it's made by a private consortium, not the government job. It's very interesting. And the other one is Norway seed vault. It's like a seed bank. It's not frozen, but it's like a library in a well temperature conditioned, controlled the library, and it has a collecting diverse seeds from around the world and then kept it. Why did they do that? Well, be prepared to extreme situations. But at the same time, scholars found that main driver could be also commercial. Like and then having some resources, DNAs, at some stage will make them rich. This is a kind of a private, the public collaborations, but no institution is concerned about preservation and protection than UNESCO. And UNESCO has really developed the concept of heritage. And what's interesting is their definition of heritage has changed and broadened over time. And the reason they studied the World Heritage in 1972, and this is the documents, was when the dam was built on the Nile River, and it's likely the historical sites around would be flooded, and then they have to be an effort to protect it. And so sort of an international movement was going to do that and designate historical sites and then preserve it. And then that kind of extreme, I think it's caused by human actions and activities. But for that, they began to, what they call the inscriptions. It's a designation of heritage sites like monument, building, and sites. And also they began to do natural heritage sites for keeping the biodiversity. That's 1970s, 50 years ago. But not only that, they realized that they have to deal with records, documents, memories. And then it was also sparked by Bosnia War in Europe, and then Bosnia Library was bombed, and then all the things were gone. And so they felt that they need to do more to keeping the documentary, but it's not rectified by all the party members of UNESCO. It's non-conventional, which means that some countries are participating, others not, and Korea is one. And also African countries and the Latin American countries are very much interested in keeping the documentary. Why? There are so many important documents related to slavery, imperialism, colonialism were there, and then they wanted to keep it. And so it is somehow the memory is really fighting ground for historians. Whose memory should be kept and also how it can be interpreted. It's a real battleground. And then they were working on, that's one part. But quite recently, 2003, intangible cultural heritages also being recognized very valuable. It's not just given, but it's an effort from non-Western countries rising up and then demanding that their heritages should be kept because many things are being lost. And for cultural diversity, and then culture should be kept in the form of a community. Community means people and the surroundings, all in nature together, okay? And then this is a very powerful message that previously culture means, that the man of culture, like a high culture, like know something. But anthropologists are going to the town and then finding that each area, each town has its own culture, and then equally treated, equally valuable. It's very change of perceptions. And so the preserving the cultural diversity, meaning more voices from the countries other than Europe and North America. So the perspective changing from elite countries to to others. Okay. So this is the website say that this is a great program to protect the most extraordinary natural places on the planet. And 2007, UNESCO report, World Heritage Report, saying that in this scenario made by IPCC, conservation of World Heritage natural sites may be jeopardized. So they began to recognize the issue and the problems. And the second mode of responses is utilizing cultural heritages, not just the preserving. And then this is a report made by Smithsonian Institution and done in, after the conference in 2020, and clearly says that climate change is a civil rights issue because it's linked to racial justice, migration, housing, and it's about economic opportunities and the development. And then they try to show that keeping those documents and ideas and knowledge, that we can summon them in response to the climate change in the form of resilience. And that's the idea that's expressed here. And UNESCO quite recently, a policy document says that cultural heritage can convey traditional knowledge. It's an intangible cultural heritage to build resilience. At the same token, this is a very interesting idea. World heritage properties, like towns and other tangible ones as well, serve as a climate change observatories. Like around the world, natural and cultural heritage sites, thinking them as in an extraordinary, precarious situations, and then seeing them as observatories. And not just the UNESCO, but and then Smithsonian, and then other museums. Really, first they responded to this and how to prepare the museums in the event of climate change. But they went beyond that, and then seeing how climate change, how museums can serve as a place to do more work for actions. And last year, UK museums got together, make an alliance, and then we should do more that. And that's changes that we can see. And also, climate activists are using the museums to show their urgency, like a Just Oil activist throwing something to the painting. And in the same vein, almost done. And in the same vein, I was invited to give a presentation in many art museums in Korea since the establishment of my center. And then it's like Seoul, Busan, and Seoul again, Gwangju, and Daegu, and the major. In some way, artists or museum people are more interested in the Anthropocene than scientists, at least in Korea. I don't know why. And we have geologists from Kigam, and then I think we need to explore more possible research topics out of it. Okay, so my time is up, and I will talk about this third of the mode of responses, and then I will finish it. And then, as I said, the questions of the heritage without humans, more than human heritages. And this is a very difficult theoretical considerations. And their suggestion is to think differently about temporalities and territories of heritage. And because heritage designation is a very nationalistic kind of efforts because of economic benefits, tourism and honors given to that. But what they are saying is to deterritorialize heritages and think it differently, and then to conceive heritage not as a tool to evoke origin myths, kind of a continuity nostalgia, but to imagine equitable futures or different futures. And it's a change of our perceptions. So the key thing is we have to go beyond nature-culture divide. We all tangible and intangible heritages all together, right? I mean, one piece, I think archaeologists are doing that. One piece of evidence, they are showing how the people are, using it. And by the same token, and then we have to understand our culture and heritage in a particular setting, and then what that means. And so the crazy idea is to designate atmosphere as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Do you like it? It's a brilliant idea. It's pushed by artists. And then they actually contact the German government, and Germany said no, and other countries, no. And only one from Latin America said yes, but he didn't go. And then they tried to get the signatures. The other, this is published. And what about Orbits, UNESCO heritage site? This sounds like a very crazy, but you can do more things like this. And then also the museum scholars are also, how about the conflict sites, like a DMZ? Actually, there was a latest attempts to make a DMZ as a UNESCO designated World Heritage Site, but other places, conflict sites. So this is the end of, this is just a summary of what I said. We have to, with the Anthropocene, we have to think differently about what it means to be human, and then the earth, and the nature-culture divide. And thank you very much for your attention.